Well, hey everybody, this is Chris DeFurio from Keys to the Shop. Welcome to another edition of Shift Break. Today's episode is brought to you by the ground control Cyclops Brewer from Voga Coffee. One thing that I know is true in specialty coffee is that companies come out with innovative solutions all the time. The question is whether or not it really is innovative or impactful on the industry. Maybe it's just a slight change to existing technology that makes it slightly better. And sometimes things come around that change the game completely. And when it comes to brewing technology and what we can expect from a batch brewer, that's exactly what the folks over at Voga Coffee have done with a ground control Cyclops brewer. The SCA award-winning technology allows you to extract flavors from your coffee that seem impossible to be able to do with accuracy and repeatability. It is a versatile machine that also brews tea, cocoa, batched iced lattes, cold brew. On top of being a game-changing batch brewer, this is the kind of workhorse that you need in your shop, especially in times where we need high quality plus versatility. I mean, these are all wrapped up into the Cyclops brewer. So I would highly encourage you, if you want to level up your coffee experience on your bar, and you also want equipment that will allow you to be more agile as a company, then you should be looking at purchasing a ground control Cyclops brewer. Go find out more about this amazing brewer over at vogacoffee.com. That's VOGA coffee.com. This episode is also brought to you by Flair Espresso, makers of all manual lever press espresso machines that give you cafe quality espresso in the convenience of your own kitchen. They are portable and very affordable too. I have the Flair Pro 2, and when I purchased this, I was so excited because as soon as I used it, I pulled one of the best shots I've ever had, literally in my kitchen, and it was just mind-blowing because honestly, I've been in coffee for 20 years, and I've never had a home espresso machine, except for maybe like a Krups, like little tiny toy espresso machine when I was just getting started. But when I heard about Flair Espresso and bought mine and tried it for myself, I was made a true believer. And right now you can get 5% off your entire order when you use the code KEYS to the Flair at checkout over at flairespresso.com. Anything you order, just when it comes to checkout time, enter KEYS to the Flair. You get 5% off your entire order for being a Keys to the Shop listener. So if you want amazing, affordable, cafe quality espresso in your home, then you should check out flairespresso.com. Okay, everyone. So today I wanted to talk to you about performance reviews. And this is a critical thing that we do in our businesses because a lot of times in the day-to-day operations, there's a question in the mind of the barista: how am I doing? And we are so busy sometimes that we don't have time to answer that question. Or we just, like I've said in a previous shift break, we assume that no news is good news, and therefore we don't ask questions about how people are doing, and we don't really make ourselves available to people to hear about how they're doing. And so it's all kind of tied up into the performance review. So I want to back up a little bit, and instead of using the performance review like this big club that takes care of all of your communication needs, you just once a year or twice a year, you just lay it all out on the barista. This is what I think of you. This is what I think of your service. This is what other people are saying about you. And now go and fix that stuff. That's what a lot of performance reviews sound like. And to make things worse, there's usually a raise tied up with a performance review. The way we go about reviews is really all wrong. I want to take a step back and say, let's redefine how we approach performance reviews. And performing a performance review sounds, well, performative. And in a sense, it kind of is. And in a other weirder sense, that's okay if the actual review and the actual communication is happening before the performance review. Okay? So let me explain. When you get to the point of having a sit-down performance review with somebody, it should just be merely a formality that you go through in order to give that person a raise or to have something in their file that's official. All the time spent between, maybe it's their first 6-month review or 1-year review or whatever. All that time that you spent before that should have been communicating your thoughts on their performance in daily communications or weekly stand-up meetings or some kind of regular communication where you're not holding all of this secretly in your mind. You're letting people know how they can improve. We just call this coaching if you want. But instead of holding it all in and making notes and then kind of laying it out in the performance review, which is not fair, we take care of our people better by communicating more often and consistently our thoughts on their performance so that becomes the norm. So nothing that I bring up with a barista in the performance review will be a surprise. So if I say to them, I really love the way that you ask customers how they enjoyed their drink after they were convinced to have that seasonal signature beverage they weren't sure about. Well, I noticed that, and I really love the way you do that. That shouldn't be the first time that they hear me say that to them. And that's also true for negative stuff too. Or we might say, we don't like saying negative. It is negative, but we use the more correct term to say, like, things to improve, and just be frank, like, this is something that you need to work on, right? You need to work on making sure that when you're wiping things down on the bar, you're not just using a dirty, wet towel to do it and leaving dirty streaks. You're actually using a clean towel to do that. That's a little bit of feedback you should have already been telling them. So when the review comes up, they're not thinking, well, nobody ever told me not to do that. And we don't want to go down the road of, well, these people are adults and they should know how to do these things. People, just get that out of your head. Staff need to be told a lot of things, not because they're not intelligent, but because they are in a job that is stressful, and sometimes we forget things, and we operate mostly on muscle memory. And so if we're used to doing something and we're not corrected, then we just keep doing it. It's not because we're not intelligent. It's just we need direction. People need direction, and they need it from you. So back to this idea of the performance review, it should be made up of a bunch of things, both positive and things that need to be worked on, that have been a part of your conversation with this individual consistently. So they're like, they already know what you're going to say. Unless there's some like bombshell thing that just happened the day before the performance, something surprising really shouldn't make it into that performance review. And by doing it this way, we give an opportunity for progress to be made. If, let's say, we built up this big body of feedback about this person without communicating to them for a while, and then told them at this 6-month review or even 3-month, the chances of us paying attention to them on a regular basis is pretty low, because the reason we're building this stuff up is because we keep putting off observation. We don't really prioritize conversation with our staff. So even if they improve on the stuff that you tell them in this meeting, are you really going to see it when they make an improvement on their service, or the way that they are tamping, or the way that they're building the beverages? If it's not baked into the system in the daily operations, in the way that you organize and manage your time for their benefit, then you're not going to really catch them doing good things, and you're not going to see them doing things that need to be corrected either. Okay? So I really just hope that this idea of not communicating, and then bam, you just hit them with this feedback, dies. I hope that it goes away and is replaced by robust feedback from the beginning and all the way throughout their time with you, and that the performance review is just a formality that puts on paper the things that we already know are true and have been talked about. So again, there's no surprises, and you might even be able to say, we've been talking about you and this issue, but you've made great progress on this. And so I'm putting that in here, like, there's nothing wrong. That actually is, we've been talking about it so consistently that you've actually corrected it and it's not an issue. So then it doesn't make it into their file. So that benefits the employee even more. It benefits you. It's just a win-win. So I hope that this helps you look at performance reviews and what leads up to them a little bit differently. And if you're already having these kind of conversations with your employees before the performance review, that's awesome. And I really hope that you lean into that even more as a result of this conversation. Know that you are doing the right thing. So I hope that this episode was helpful. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you here next week on another edition of Shift Break, from keys to the shop.